With the PvP wipe just around the corner in August, and early August in fact, there is some really good items that you need to know about for when you do start playing so that you get that financial bonus at the beginning of your Tarkov wipe experience on the PvP mode. So with that being said, we're going to cover a couple of different ways that you can make quite a lot of money at the beginning of a wipe and how you can exponentially be far more richer than a lot of other players just by these some simple kind of things that you can do every single time that a wipe happens on Tarkov. So if you're watching this at the release, then hopefully you'll be able to use these tips on the next release that's just around the corner. But if not, and you're watching later on down the line, some of these tips will be useful in the future. So with that being said, if you enjoy Tarkov and you want to see more, make sure to subscribe down below. But let's get into today's video. One thing that I want to clarify about today's video though, before everything kicks off with regards to the different methods that you can use during the early game, you don't have to do all of them, but some of them, as long as you're kind of focusing on the core ideas of the video and some of the bits, you will make money for sure. But I want to highlight that if you are interested in having the best possible character loadout, the best gear and everything like that, then obviously having money only gets you so far. So if you are after a holistic entire build of your character that focusing on skills and everything like that, then you want to be tasking alongside doing everything that we're doing in today's video. Tasking is one of the best ways to unlock your traders, to level them up and to be able to complete the wide variety of tasks in the game that then reward you with the ability to purchase barters that other people aren't going to have. So making sure that you're just doing tasks and making sure to focus on farming up and having good farming runs whilst you're doing tasks at the same time is the optimal setup. And with the new non-found in raid items being able to be sold on the flea, this makes it even easier for you to go in, do your tasks whilst also guaranteeing yourself money every single raid. So I want to highlight, definitely do your tasks, make sure you get to level 15 to unlock the flea, and then start doing some of the things that we've got in this video and working on your tasks as much as possible at the same time. So one thing that I do every single time that a wipe actually happens on PvP, what I'll do is I will make sure to run some pretty decent loot maps at the beginning, because at the beginning of wipe, all of the hideout items that are required for all of your hideout necessities to upgrade, all of the sledgehammers, all of the items such as toolboxes or tool sets even, and all of the extras that come alongside that, bolts, nuts, all of this sort of stuff go absolutely through the roof, which means that everyone is trying to buy them because they're all relatively low level hideout items that everybody needs, and not just in a small quantity, some of them needing, you know, 3, 4, 5, especially with regards to things like tool sets, since they are slightly rarer within the game and they come in lower quantities but are still needed in a relatively high quantity. You can use that to your advantage. So if you farm at the beginning, just accumulating as much of those hideout items as possible and then just selling them, because although you can use them yourself, at the end of the day a lot of these prices do tend to crash as soon as everyone starts upgrading, and although you'll be set back in terms of your upgrades within your hideout, a lot of the time people upgrade their hideout way too soon before they even have the levels to access some of the higher end content and higher end gear and higher end upgrades that really make the difference anyway. So you may as well wait that initial period to then go and spam out all of your hideout when the prices of items come really low. And one amazing thing about selling all your items at the beginning is that it gives you that starting cash, and that starting cash can then end up snowballing into a much greater cash stack that you can then use on your game. So we're on the PvE mode at the moment. This is just because it's a very good indicator as to some of the more expensive prices versus some of the hideout items and stuff that are required during wipes and stuff like that. So in terms of course, the actual items that I usually buy up at the beginning, it is typically things like tool sets. I will farm those out, sell them, and then we'll kind of think about some of the items that come later on. A really good tool is of course the Tarkov tracker. It kind of highlights some of the quests and the hideout items that you do need. I will leave links to those in the description, and it gives you a full list of everything that you do need for both quests and your hideout itself, which is a good indicator to go ahead, have a look and see what is actually required for you to level up your hideout, and then make sure that you are focusing in on those items at the beginning of the raid, taking them out of your raids and then just instant selling them. Now, once you've kind of accumulated a bit of money, obviously you'll start to think about which is the best map and how you can maximize that. Well, one of the greatest maps for just farming up loose items, things for hideouts, is Lighthouse. Now, Lighthouse is a very, very good map to be able to do this, and it doesn't even require you to go into the water treatment plant. You can actually just farm up a ton of actual items from the chalets, and if you're just running these constantly for the first couple of weeks or week or so, you will set yourself way ahead of everyone else in terms of the money, which then means that you don't have to be limited by the money that you have to upgrade your hideout, to take in better gear and everything like this. So although you're set back at the beginning, you'll end up accelerating away from everyone else in terms of progression because you're not hindered by money, which a lot of other people will be when they start upgrading their hideout way too soon before they really get those upgrades. So a great map is Lighthouse. I will leave a guide to a really good run that you can use that doesn't involve the water treatment plant, so you don't have to take out any rogues or anything like that within the actual game. So that is something I'd highly recommend going and checking out. And it involves the chalets, and then moving down into the town and this sort of thing is going to be the best option. There's lots of technical items that you can pick up, as well as just rare loose loot spawns. You want to be running it on your PMC because then you can guarantee money. You can take in whatever gear that you feel like you want to. If you're very good at the game, it doesn't really matter. You can just go in with whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you're comfortable with losing, because of course these are highly contested areas of the map that people are going to be focusing to try and get there. But if you do get there and you're successful in actually extracting, which even as a player that, you know, maybe doesn't have as much experience as some of the other players within the game, you're able to at least extract every other or every third raid with gear either way. So that is something I'd highly recommend you do. If you're running with groups, it makes it slightly easier, but you're sharing all the loot, which is the biggest problem with regards to running in a group on Tarkov in terms of farming up money. You don't want to be sharing the loot. You want to be getting it all to yourself, and of course that gives you the opportunity to I guess get more experience with dealing with other groups and stuff like that, which is going to make you better at the game. So I feel like that's a good strategy to go with at the beginning of the wipe, and then, you know, you can team up with whoever you want. You can play however you want. I'm just telling you about some of the best ways to farm up money in this video, and of course you can go off and do variations of this whatever way you want to. So that is a really good way to actually get yourself some money, get those hideout items in the game itself. But then what do you do with that money? Because of course you want to use that money to make more money. Well, the first thing that you should be considering buying is going over to Therapist, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows about this. It is the lucky or not the lucky, but the junk scav box that you can actually pick up. So the junk box, this is one of the biggest things, at least in the beginning of the game, that you can buy, and as many times as you can buy these during your beginning is going to save you a ton of time, both in looting up the raids themselves and emptying it into your stash. You can very quickly just set up your stash in a way that you can just drop in the junk boxes. Usually I would set up my actual kind of stash in a similar manner to what we've got here. Obviously you won't have a money case, you probably won't have a thick items case either, so these would be dropped out, and the actual quick sell junk box would be at the top alongside another one if you can get another one as quickly as possible. And then every raid, you would just empty out whatever's in your actual stash. So we'll just dump in a load of this sort of stuff. And all I would do is literally, you'd have your two junk boxes on the top left, top right, and then maybe a money case or something to drop in some of your rubles. And then all you do was just control click everything from that raid, and then you're done. You're ready to go back into the next one. Once you've kind of filled up your stash a little bit, you can then go through and sort them into the junk boxes after a couple of raids. And then you go ahead, once you've accumulated a lot of actual items within those junk boxes, then I would go in and I'd be like, right, okay, now that I've got multiple items, I can go ahead and sell all of the items. I'd open up my quick sell case, whether that be a thick items case or of course a junk box, which is probably what you're going to have. at the beginning, and then I would select the bit that I've got, multiple of, which you're probably going to do because you'll be running a decent loop of the kind of spawns and stuff like that, especially if you're doing Lighthouse. They're very consistent spawns of various different items, so then you can just go in and sell all of the individual items. It saves time on both selling the items, and of course you can get a better price because you've got more of those items to actually sell, and people will usually buy a bundle as opposed to singular items when they're sold, so you're kind of saving yourself the time of going through every single one to sell it, which is a big help to you and of course whoever's buying them, because they can just buy however many that they need. So that's something that I will always do at the beginning of a wipe, making sure to get the junk box as quickly as possible, so then we can move forward and do what we need to do. But of course, once you've kind of farmed up your actual junk box, then you have to start thinking about, right, okay, I've got multiple junk boxes now. They're all filling up. I'm doing the raids as normal. I've been doing them for the last week. What do I actually do now? Well, one of the best things to do is invest your money, because during a wipe, typical things will go up. It's like a normal market. Certain things will go up depending on the supply and demand. Now, a lot of people at the beginning of the wipe will not have access to a lot of the hideout items, which require you to get certain things in order to use that item. For example, the water collector. This requires water filters to create yourself a canister with purified water. Now, water filters at the beginning of a wipe, no one has the water collector, because you need water collector level 3 in order to actually get access to creating canisters with purified water. So what do? Well, you go ahead and buy up as many of the water filters as possible by selecting your own junk box, and then what you can do is just fill up one entire junk box filled with water filters, because I was buying them at the beginning of the PvE mode, which is essentially like a wipe, and I was picking them up for about 15,000. Now, if we were to go ahead and have a look at how much a water filter is right now on PvE, albeit it is PvE, remember, they are sitting at 178,000. So I would have 10x'd all of my money for actually just buying water filters at the beginning of the PvE mode. Now, PvP and the wipes are going to be slightly different. They aren't exactly correlated one for one. I'm not an idiot, but they are very similar in terms of the prices with regards to some of the items that are required as like reusable items, because water filters are used consistently and by everyone once they do level up their hideout to get to that point. So obviously no demand at the beginning, but the supply is probably more than ever because lots of people are playing the game, lots of people are finding them. More people play at the beginning of a Tarkov wipe than the end, so the supply is massive, but no one has access to actually use them. So they're going to be selling them for a lot cheaper than what they will be at the end. Supply, demand, you get the idea. And so with that being said, that's why I always fill up an entire junk box just purely with water filters and hold them. I don't use them, I don't sell them, and I just wait about a month to about a month and a half, and then I go ahead and sell them all, and it's basically like 5xing my money. They usually go up to about 80k, something like that, and of course varying on different wipes and how popular the game mode is and whatever, essentially they're going to go up every single wipe. And so that's something I will buy every single time. But of course you need to buy up multiple scav junk boxes in order to do that, or having yourself thick items cases, which you're probably not going to have, as I said. So buying up the junk boxes is going to be a good thing to do at the beginning. Usually I would not go above about 4 junk boxes. They kind of start just taking up so much space and you're not really saving yourself too much time by doing that. It is only really worth buying more if you're willing to spend that money on essentially buying more of the items that you're going to hold on to sell later on down the line. Now, then we move into some of the other things. So much like the water collector, you also have a wide variety of other things that come with the hideout upgrades. And one of them being, of course, various different medical and med station things like defibs, which are only unlocked as you get through the higher hideout, so you can't really use those. But some of the items such as power banks also are quite cheap at the beginning, so you want to buy up some of these and then hold on to them for a little while until people start needing the defibs, which are required for a late game quest, which is Crisis, and so you need 3 of them found in raid, and it's a great way to find defibs found in raid. You can just craft them up and they count as the same as just finding them in the raid. So a lot of people choose this option, And they can be used for barter trades as well for various different events. So it's a really good thing to do, and just have a couple. You don't have to fill an entire junk box with them, but you can definitely use them and buy up, 5, 10, whatever you can, and then kind of just hold on to them. Then, of course, we have the other repeater offender, which is the scav case. These are used all of the time, and they get incredibly expensive very, very quickly, because the scav case doesn't take too long to be able to unlock, and most people unlock it within the first maybe 3 weeks of the Tarkov wipe. So you want to be buying up as many of the intel folders and moonshines as you possibly can at the very beginning, and that is going to give you a decent chunk of profit because they're high value items to begin with, and so when they do double in price, you're making more money per item that you have, which means you don't have to fill up as much space with those items. Now, the one I usually pick is the intel folders, because you can actually drop them into a junk box as opposed to having to have food bags and stuff like that, the Mr. Holodnik food bags, and of course that's got more space, the junk boxes, so I just fill up a junk box with intel folders, which is really, really useful. And then you have multiple repeat offenders with regards to items. You also have multiple workbench things that you can do. So at the beginning of wipe, a lot of things are very expensive, like wires, for example. Wires themselves typically, can sell for about 40k, and at the very beginning wipe can be even more expensive. So what you want to do is try and find yourself as many of the power cords and keep hold of those, and then transfer those into wires, packs of 8 wires. And essentially what you can do is like double your money with this hideout item. So you buy up 2 power cords. They are going to be more expensive than the actual wires. But the thing is with these is you only need 2 power cords, but you're getting 8 wires. So as long as you're doing this consistently and making sure to check the price of wires versus the price of the 2 power or the power cords that you're getting, you're going to save yourself some money. Now, another thing that you can do as well at the beginning is look at some of the other ones that are repeatable. So things like moonshine production. This is a completely just cyclic thing that you can do in the game. It just completely rotates every single time, and there's no real end point because essentially you're trying to get yourself moonshines. So what you want to do is buy up as many of the sugars, which is kind of one of the key items of this barter, and you can buy these sugars usually for about like 20 to 30k at the very beginning of a wipe, which is very, very good, and if you can get them cheaper than that, it's amazing. And so you buy a holodonic thermal bag or whatever, the food bag, and you can just dump a load of sugars into that. And with the price of sugars, they usually go massively expensive quite quickly as people start to upgrade. But of course, the longer you wait, the more expensive they're going to go. And so buy them cheap, sell them high. It's just typical markets. So that is what you want to do with sugar. It's a very good resource to actually take advantage of. Now, another thing that you really want to knuckle down on is leveling up your traders as quickly as possible. If you can get to level like the max loyalty level on all of your traders much quicker than everyone else, it unlocks the ability to purchase a lot of the barters that actually come available. And a lot of these barters are kind of very, very good in terms of late game and kind of mid game items that everybody uses. So things like sick cases are available from Jaeger, and these are really, really expensive usually. And so what you'll find is people end up doing this barter and selling them for more expensive. Now, with the non-found in raid items being able to be sold on the flea, so that means if you get a barter item, you can sell it directly on the flea. It allows you to purchase things like sick cases using the barters if you've unlocked them. Of course, this is one of the higher end barters, but it's the same for a lot of the different items that you can unlock. Things like, for example, just normal items cases you can buy using the barters. Things like ophthalmoscope, meds, you can trade them in to be able to get items cases, and you can make money off of that. And a lot of people don't have access to actually get the barter, which means they're trying to buy those item cases, and they're usually very inflated at the beginning, which means the profit margins are huge. And even as the game goes on, they still end up being very slim, or at least profitable, by doing the barter and then selling the items on the flea afterwards. So you want to be doing that. Things like money cases, I mean, in PvE, for example, you can make like 700k, almost triple your money, making double the actual input cost as a profit from doing this barter. So this is a thing that you could work on as you get further on down your traders and leveling those up, which you should be able to do, especially if you're doing a lot of raids on trying to farm up your hideout items to then sell, which can be something that you do. You pick those high value loot item maps that require some of the tasks, things like Lighthouse if you've got some of the tasks for that, just grinding out those early game tasks and then really focusing down on one specific map, running the same loop, taking out PMZs if you can, and doing all of the various different tasks on that map. And then you can work towards getting those traders leveled up and making money off of actually just having traders leveled up, which is amazing. You then have things like fence rep. If you can get to 6 fence rep really quickly within the game, what you can actually have access to is the fence rep store, and the fence rep store is amazing. This refreshes and it has items that are only available to people that have the fence rep kind of 6.0 scav rep, I guess, within the game. And that means that at the beginning of a wipe, not very many people have 6 scav rep. So if you are just farming out those car extracts, if you're doing as many as possible and you level up your fence rep to as high as you get access to this store. And every so often it will refresh. You can get things like marked room keys pop up within this. And if you're sat there and you want a trick, you can actually search on the keys, and then you can just be sat on the keys and you just simply spam refresh, and every time it refreshes, hoping that it does actually refresh the stock and it comes up with more keys. It's a really good way to do it, and even if you're playing PvE, this is something you can do as well. Right now it is just insanely profitable, and a lot of the keys are sold for the discard value, and so when you pick them up for discard value, which is significantly less than what they actually sell for to on the flea, then it's a really good way of doing that. So that's what I'd recommend. Of course, that is kind of the key basics stuff that I will do every single time. I don't want to convolute this video. I just wanted to show you some of the key concepts and things that you can use in your own gameplay on Tarkov when it does eventually wipe in early August. So just a couple weeks away, I would expect, until we finally get the wipe on the game, and it should be really, really good. And I'm looking forward to trying it out and testing out all of these methods and showcasing how you too can make a ton of money. We're going to try and aim to get as much money on the PvP mode as we did on the PvE mode within a similar sort of time frame. We're up to 567 million, and the actual stash value, I believe, is probably over, well, not quite over $1 billion, because we've spent, I think, like 40 million on a thick case recently, which of course is not actually priced in your stash, as the price of the thick case is on the flea or for the barter trades on that, and we've got an absolute ton of thick cases on PvE. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like it, and of course check out this video on screen to come up with all of the new things that are coming out with the latest patch. So I highly recommend going and checking that one out with some of the best things that are coming with the new 0.15 Tarkov patch and update, and everything that comes with the new wipe as well. So thank you much, and I will see you in the next one.